2x2, 7 rows deep. And rolling up to the start-finish line.
Looks like Asher going a little bit off track as the inside as they can. Saber making an amazing dive into turn one, and electroshocks off. Eggful gets the move, but MNU trying to take a move.
Big contact from 5 different punches.
Big incident with Snowdog, our leader.
As we head into turn row, it's a big crash. It's a big crash between the two title contenders.
And go. Welcome everyone to the 5th round of the Simufur GT3 Season 7 Championship. Suzuka, not the shark that some of us know of in the server, but Suzuka circuit, located at the land of the rising sun, loved by many and hated by some drivers due to the very technical first sector. Definitely this week though, even tougher in the wets, as the forecast was really accurate before the race. I'm Newbie. Joining me today in the commentary booth is Kady, and Denak, as always, with us in the commentary booth. How are you, Kady, this time around?
I'm good. You couldn't pay me to hate this circuit, I'm going to be honest. This is literally, it's got to be up there. If you were to ask me on any given day, like, what my favorite circuit is, this one is always up there. There's just so many just really iconic corners around here that we might see drivers coming up to right now. 130R definitely being one of them, and it's going to be absolutely wild in the wet. They really are going to have to make sure that they're being careful on the throttle and on the brakes all the way around this circuit, especially because it's actually even looking like the rain is a lot more intense than I was expecting it to be right now. So we're on a bit of a soaked circuit right now, and our drivers are just out there in practice trying to get a feel for it right now, but it's looking pretty bad out there in terms of conditions.
Yeah, definitely very wet out here. It seems like you don't really get a dry spot here and there, despite having about 26 or so. Actually no, there's currently 20 drivers on the grid right now, so even with 20 drivers you still don't see a white line, a dry line here. And with how ACC simulates rain, you really want to be on that dry line here, but as the iconic track that it is, with how technical it is, it's all about making sure that you stay on, even though there is the green stuff, you want to stay on the very slippery tarmac to make sure you don't slide off, and it's gonna be about survival this week.
Absolutely going to be about survival. Survival is going to be maybe kind of tough if you're driving, for example, the Porsche 991, which newcomer to the championship at this point. Welcome in Simon Ballon in that wonderful snail car in the 991 right now. That is absolutely. I mean, it's got to be a tough pick as we go through our full course yellow practice at the moment here. Definitely the 992 is a little bit more reasonable in terms of suspension characteristics, but at the same time, we've been seeing actually some really good times from this car right now because we weren't expecting anybody to run it, so it's not currently subject to any of our balance of performance adjustments. So maybe actually able to get that car up to a really high spot today if all goes well.
Well, I think it's just more of that you don't really get to see much here. I think it's still being subjected to some balance of performance. It's just not as strongly data driven as some of the other cars is, but it's still definitely still a very strong show of how skilled Simone is in driving in very rough conditions, as we usually see him in our Simufur Rally Champ. But currently being in the 991 and also in the wets is definitely going to be pretty much in his own ballpark here, and it's gonna be the rest that's gonna have to fight for that position. It's definitely gonna be a problem for some of them that's fighting for championship points, because then you'll have Simone smack in the middle of crucial points that you need. But it's all about making sure you actually beat a competitor regardless of all the points that you have or not. And I think regardless having Simone in the front or not, you will still want to be in front of your competitor on the championship standings.
Absolutely, we're seeing some of our first times filtering in right now. That fastest lap graphic is going wild right now, as basically every car that's crossing the line is going faster and faster at this point. Currently, Inigo Lopez holding the fastest time with a 2:25. We've seen times around the sort of 2:16, 2:15 range. Just for context, the sort of normal dry times that we expect here are around the 2 minutes, dipping into the 1:59s, maybe the 1:58s if you're really feeling yourself. So definitely the rain is making them have to be a lot more careful, especially in this really, really technical first sector through Degner's 1 and 2, these really high-speed ones. And you really have to be careful when you're washing out onto that sort of like green concrete turf curbing there. It's going to really catch you out if you're not careful. So it's going to be just a matter of who can get the time in qualifying at this point. That's going to be setting our grid. And I guess speaking of, we can talk about points a little bit if we have a moment here before we get qualifying going. So I think last round, people who were watching the Monza round, we went in with a really, really close leaderboard across a lot of our different categories, especially on the overall, and some of that stuff has solidified a little bit in some places, but in other places like P2, 3, and 4 here in our overall standings, it's actually mostly gotten even tighter with RK's win at Monza, propelling them up to P3 at this point in the championship, overtaking Lily Armstrong for that final podium spot, but all of them separated by the absolute smallest of margins. So it's going to really be a tough fight for them out in front, and I think their performance around this circuit is really going to determine how that fight shakes out. We do have a lead change for the Gold Championship with Newt's great performance out in Monza last time. Now has a 1-point lead over Aiden Larson, who of course had some bad luck at the start of the Monza round, and unfortunately was not able to get the points that they were expecting from starting close to pole in that one. Silver looks to be kind of our most solidified at this point, but definitely Fabio could still make a run for the top spot in that championship, especially considering the performances that we've been seeing from them lately in that Lexus RCF GT3. And in AM, of course, we had that three-way tie last time, and based on basically the finishing order of the Monza round, we have Wolfen in front and JPEG right behind, with Adam bringing up P3 at this point. So it's definitely still going to be they're definitely duking it out in the AM Championship still, but those points are at least a little bit more solidified again. It's really, really competitive up and down the grid, so it's been really, really fun season to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely really fun, given that we only have this round and next round, which is not next week. We'll talk about that later at the end of the race. But yeah, with 2 rounds remaining, including this round, and we still have a very active standing to fight for. It's definitely really healthy for the series, and I'm glad that everyone's really competitive against each other. That's really nice to always have really nice fights to fight against. And yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how some of these skilled drivers in the front, maybe some of them are only dry drivers, they don't really practice in the wets. It's gonna be basically a shake-up call to kind of remind yourself that you don't always get sunshine and rainbows in sim racing, even though we try to. You sometimes have to remind yourself that wet weathers do happen, and you kind of have to practice patience in these kind of cases. And it's really the Achilles heels for most hot lappers, because usually what you do when you do hot lapping, you're gonna do it in the dries. You don't really hot lap in the wets. That's not fun. So it's gonna be a wake-up call for some to get on practicing with wet weather and unfavorable conditions in mind. And it's gonna be interesting to see who's gonna crack under these sort of changing conditions.
Well, I mean, you don't think hot lapping is fun in the wet, honestly. I sometimes have a pretty good time with it. But definitely, we are gods unto this world, and we can control the weather. And we decided to throw a curveball at our drivers today. In terms of that, the conditions are actually our times at the moment are sort of for the pros floating around the sort of the 10.9s, 10.6s, and we have a 9.4 from Simone out in front by over a second, and that's actually going to be a 9.2 from Simone now at the front. So definitely that 991 putting in the work right now. That's going to be the end of our time. But I did see a lot of green on the timing towers, so at least for now, it does kind of look like with the cars sort of running over this track and displacing some of the water, the times are getting a little bit faster as perhaps that dry line might start to appear. But again, as long as the rain keeps coming down, there's just going to be more and more water put on for all of it that's getting displaced. It's sort of immediately getting replaced by the precipitation. So we're probably going to be expecting to see about this level of wetness for most of the race. But again, anything can happen.
Yeah, but also you were talking about being replaced by precipitation. It could also be that when the track is active in practice, as we're about to finish, as we're waiting for practice to finish up before they go into qualifying, that as long as the track is active, you'll get water displaced. But with the drivers coming in for the pits and also the session advancing itself into qualifying, all that dry line gets replaced immediately. It's going to be up to the M drivers to clear the way for the silver drivers, and it's going to be the silver drivers clearing the water for the pro drivers. So we'll have to build all the dry line out back again. So the times from our 209 is going to drop significantly, and then it's going to slowly build back up again. But it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers drive on the wet track. We have, just now as you say in practice, Simone in the Porsche 991 at the top. We do have a lot of mid-engine cars here. I see the leaderboard on the top 5 filled with Porsches, Ferraris, McLarens. We only have one Lexus driver though, a front-engine car, Aiden Larson, showing the world that they can really compete in the dry and basically finish practice in P2. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things go. But as the drivers slowly get into qualifying, as qualifying just ticked over, they're going to slowly get out. It's going to be the M class that's going to go out right now. So we'll just wait for a bit before they start rolling onto track, and it's going to be interesting to see how the M's fare in a bit as they come out into the track.
Absolutely, and definitely in terms of qualifying strategy, we do have, this is quite a long track, so there's a lot of room for our AM drivers to space out. There's only 4 AM drivers on the grid at the moment, so they're going to all have plenty of space in order to take up their sort of clean qualifying runs. They're kind of running fairly close to each other. I would imagine that you would want to try to make as much room between each other as possible, especially especially more than you would in a sort of dry situation, because you never know when the driver in front of you is going to step out or get too far over a curb and spin out and potentially ruin your lap. So you definitely want to make sure that you're giving everyone a wide berth while at the same time making sure that you stay on the track yourself. I think that's honestly going to be most of this qualifying at this point. Is you want to kind of slowly build into your fastest lap, make sure that you are keeping it on the track, probably staying away from the curbs as much as you can, especially on your out lap where the tires are going to be cold. It's going to be especially dicey, and you're just going to sort of try to work into it as much as you can as you continue to sort of feel the grip. And there's kind of a sixth sense that you need to develop for it in terms of knowing how hard you can push and how hard you can press that throttle out of the corners, and whoever can master that today is going to be the one that's going to come out on top.
I think the sixth sense you're talking about is the disregard for safety, and also how much guts you have in you to not to push as hard as you can, because there are definitely ways to overtake in the wets. Personally, I've done that a few times at Nürburgring, to the amazement by some people that were looking over. But definitely all about making sure that you just know the car, man. You just gotta know how the car feels, know how the car pushes itself, and it's gonna be interesting. And we're about to start our first AM lap. We're definitely gonna be interesting to see the lines going on, but I think you're gonna have to take a look at how the AM's gonna have a run here.
Yeah, absolutely. So all the spray kicking up in the rear mirror of that BMW M4. We are going on the run down to turn 1, pretty high-speed corner, so it's going to be especially treacherous here. Braking a little bit earlier than that access road off to the left, which is the sort of normal dry braking zone. Probably feels like it takes forever to get on the throttle around here. A little bit of a correction required there, but it managed to keep it on the road there. So nice job from Wolfen. Does not have the wipers going at the moment, so it looks a little bit like the visibility is a little bit tough here around there. But just sort of coursing through the S's at the moment. This is going to be sort of the most feel it lap by lap part of the racetrack. There's not really a lot of clear braking points, especially in the wet, so it's going to be tough around there. Being told that the windshield wiper is a visual bug, so Wolfen definitely has it on at the moment. But for the purposes of this lap, we can pretend that they are just going at it without the wipers on at all, and doing a fantastic job of it. On the run down to the hairpin, Degners look pretty tidy there. Definitely didn't want to run it over the curbs, and taking a pretty tight line through the hairpin here on the power as much as you can, but honestly not too much. You would usually see them track all the way out to the right side of the racetrack there, but Wolfen taking their chances, and that's going to be off into the grass. That's probably really easy to clip that there, so Wolfen's going to have to go again. We'll get another lap to you at some point during this session, but I was about to say that Spoon Curve is probably also going to be a really, really tough one around here. One of those ones that you need to do by feel, especially when you're sort of mid-corner and the rear is getting really loose. You really want to make sure that you apply just enough throttle to make sure that the whole car is settled and everything is working in tandem.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because there's a lot of places where usually in Suzuka you gotta push pretty hard onto the very edge of the track, and in the wets you just basically lose all traction the moment you stay on basically the paint at the edges of the track, and that's when you're just like, okay, just barely up, that's gone, that's my lap gone. And you can do that in qualifying, but you definitely do not want to do that in the race because that's gonna catch you out. If you're impatient, it's gonna spin you out. If you're really patient, that's just gonna lose your position or two, and it's not really a good thing to do here in the race. Even in qualifying, you can see here as JPEG closing in on Kody in front of them, if I believe that is. You're gonna see the spray start to form up in the faces, and that's basically just blocking your entire view. And Kody I think that's in the McLaren. Who is that? I think that's Kody, just letting him by. And then you can see immediately behind them, it'll be face full of spray. You don't really get to see what's going on in front of you, and that's gonna be annoying for any sort of driver in front. So if in the rain, as much as you like the toe, you definitely want to be in front just so you don't get in the way of like all the spray that you have here. That is currently Kody having a face full of water just getting sprayed out to the windscreen.
And that's going to be even worse on the run down to turn 1 when we're starting the race, because instead of having one car in front of you, you have maybe 10 or 12 that all of those wet weather tire treaded wheels are displacing all of that water, the sort of the aerodynamic elements of the car, the rear diffuser kicking up all of that spray, that sort of heated spray that's coming up out of these. And in Formula One cars especially, you can see that it's sort of the water sort of like immediately aerosolizes when it I don't know if that's a word, aerosolizes. That sounds right to me. And it sort of like blankets the whole track in a fog, as that's going to be Wolfen in the wall, it looks like. And it's going to have to reset to the pits and try again. Not too much time left in this, about 3.5 more minutes for the AMs. So we're going to get a quick replay of where that happened. And honestly, it could have been any point in the racetrack here, but yep, gets on the power out of the hairpin here. Looks like maybe it's the exact same place. Yeah, just clipping a little bit too much inside there, and could not get control of the car. Ends up spun out on the other side, facing the incorrect direction for that particular corner. So definitely our AM drivers are going to be wanting to face the correct direction while they're taking their qualifying runs.
Yeah, and earlier we were talking about making sure you set your time a bit by bit over time to make sure you get qualifying laps. We only have 2 drivers currently that have set qualifying laps out of the 4 amps that we have here. It's only JPEG and Kody that have set a 2:15.6 as JPEG just crossed the line with a new lap time, whereas Kody is still on the 2:18.9s. So it's all about survival. You can see here, regardless of how quote-unquote fast you can get, even though you can't see the times here, no, it doesn't matter if you can bank a lap in. So it's important to just survive regardless of what kind of pace you have, because you know for a fact some of these drivers, even though they get fast paced, they just won't keep it together because they're already pushing the very absolute limits with their pace. And if you're not really consistent or experienced enough to keep that pace over a long time, especially an hour, you're gonna suffer, and it's gonna be annoying to keep it alive. But it's gonna be fun for any driver that has learned to just stay alive in these kind of situations.
Yeah, I feel like this one's kind of gonna come down, especially in like Am and Silver. Probably just gonna come down to whoever practiced the most in the wet is probably gonna be my guess for this one. We definitely have a big opportunity in this qualifying session to see some real shakeups in sort of our usual running order. Kind of whoever is able to switch the car on for their particular qualifying run might be able to get ahead and stay ahead, because as we know, even in dry conditions, Suzuka is a fairly hard track to overtake around. It's a little bit easier in these GT3 cars because they can run so closely together, as Code is getting very much flirting with the edge of the grass there. It's a pretty common theme for most of the drivers that have been taking a run so far in this session, as we have about a minute left now. But I think we definitely have a chance to see a sort of irregular running order here. And if you end up in front of someone who might technically supposed to be faster than you, you definitely have a good chance to keep them behind, because there's only a few really good opportunities to overtake around here. One of them being turn 1, another one sometimes being the hairpin that looked a little bit too wide around 130R. So that might be Coda invalidated. So we'll get one more chance here. So he just completely cut over the grass concrete there in the Casio triangle, just trying to get to the line to make sure that they can start another lap.
I don't know if that's gonna be a good thing though. I think that's too fast. They're getting they're still getting a second lap. Usually what happens in ACC is that when you cut the last corner, they usually don't let you because they worry that you might be gaining too much speed as they slide for makes it though for the next lap. They might be a bit slow, but they are definitely pushing a bit hard for the next lap. But I was gonna say the kind of quote-unquote strat for rain weather, crank your TC, or ABS. You kind of keep it there, but you gotta be careful with your ABS and just like be a bit careful here. It's not as treacherous. Oh, it's Kylo Mooney almost just. That's not Kylo. That's Wolfen. Almost lost it, and it's gonna be another invalidated lap. Yep, that's gonna be another invalidated lap. Unfortunate for them, but yeah, it's all about surviving. And if you have your TC not helping you, or if your setup's not helping you at all, it's going to be annoying for the drivers.
Yeah, this rain is really not letting up, is it? Like it's really just kind of continuing to pour down here around Suzuka circuit. So definitely it's going to be a struggle here. The sort of weather modeling in ACC, as with a lot of things in ACC, is like, especially if you've driven on iRacing's Tempest weather system, it's definitely like a little bit less sophisticated around here. You do have sort of developments of dry lines and things like that, but in terms of developing like puddles of standing water on the track, that's mostly determined by sort of the amount of saturation that's being set on sort of server side. So it's looking like the saturation's really high right now. So definitely for especially the sort of the likes of the Lamborghinis and the Porsches around here. And honestly, I was kind of expecting that AMR to look a little bit more planted around here, but it's looking really squirrely, and that might be down to just a matter of having a lot of torque under the rear wheels that is catching out our drivers slightly, as that is way too wide coming out of 130R. May see a lot of track limits violations around here as our drivers are just trying to feel things out.
Yeah, definitely. And you were talking about how saturated the track is. I can see in the forecast that if you think this is not wet enough, we're going to increase our wetness in 30 minutes time. So it's going to get heavier. The track currently is still considered wet. If we don't clear the water enough, we might possibly see a flooded track. That's gonna be pretty treacherous, I would say, but I don't think it's gonna get there. but it could be a possibility, and that's going to be interesting for the commentary booth. And basically, as Sad Cat goes sideways through there, not so fun for the drivers, as Sad Cat has demonstrated why it's not as fun for the drivers involved.
Yeah, so out of our 4 AM drivers then, we had JPEG on top with a actually pretty fantastic lap. There's a 2:15.4. So that's sort of the first benchmark that we have here around Suzuka, and then Manuel Benavides taking P2 in AM, which I'm sure they'll be delighted with. Still 2 seconds off of that time with a 2:17.5, but honestly, for the amount of weather on the track, we've seen a lot of times being really close to each other throughout this season. I think I wouldn't really expect that to be carrying into today. I think we're going to see a lot of variation in the times as we go through, and Wolfen unfortunately taking up the sort of last spot on the AM grid, as they were not able to set a valid time. So we'll see if any other big names in silver or gold or pro are actually able to set times, and if they're not, they may have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, it's gonna be kind of funny if they don't set times here, but I don't really see Silver's not setting a time here. I think we're gonna see a few wild cards though that usually you don't really see at the top front of the grid might propel themselves at the front of the grid. Wet weather usually stabilizes basically removes all the edges that you usually get from experience driving in the dries, knowing the physics, knowing the tire model so well that you can get a slight advantage over each other. But in the wets, all of that gets thrown out the window. We're all in this together to survive it, and it's going to be it's all about who drives the more consistent over the laps in this race. But right now, Aura's the first to cross the line, and it's going to be a lap time of a 2:13, the first 2:13s on the board. Sidecat's getting a 2:12 though, so definitely improvement over that. I got a feeling the few drivers behind them will get improvements as they cross the line, so it's going to be interesting to see, as that's Kalmari in the BMW with a 2:12.5.
Yeah, so kind of our usual suspects at the top of the list at the moment. We still have Fabio has not set a time yet, and as I was saying that, actually set a time really close, within basically half a tenth of Callan. So that will get them up to a fairly comfortable P2 at the moment. What's that correction?
Half a hundredths. It's 0.5. Actually no. Wait, actually it's half a tenth. Never mind. I'm dumb.
Half a tenth, 500ths. Yeah, same thing. It's it's all good. And Sierra's still out there trying to set a time at the moment, but at least we have a fair amount of bankers being done in silver at the moment, as we see Sierra rounding out spoon curve at the moment. This one is definitely, you gotta try to cut to the inside of that second apex as much as you can when you're kind of going around there. And we're on the run towards 130R, which is definitely probably going to be the most dangerous place for our drivers here at the moment. This corner is very nearly flat. That might be too much. It's kind of hard to tell from this bumper cam, but that may have been a little bit too much over the track limits. And
it's still valid.
Actually, it's still valid. Huh? So just finding the pixel perfect edge of the track there for Sierra, and this should be a pretty good time. In fact, it should be a fantastic time. We'll see it come in any second now, and that is going to be a 13.7, so that's good enough for P6 in class. So those times will come down, I'm sure, but actually our silver's looking pretty bunched up at the moment, most of them within a second or a little more of each other.
Yeah, it's going to be the first time where we don't see any sort of intermixing between the M class and the silver class, so pretty nice to see that finally for once the grid is separated by each other, so they won't be fighting for unnecessary, quote-unquote, unnecessary positions in the start of the race. So the silver drivers get a sigh of relief in this time around. It's all about fighting between each other, and it's gonna be I see some improvements for some of them. Fabio's already half a second improved from previous laps, so it's going to be interesting to see you as they cross the line what time they get. There's going to be a 2:12.1 because Kalmari set a new 2:11.8 on the previous lap, so it's all about chasing that sub 2:12 for these silver drivers. If not, it's going to be fighting to be within the 2:12s, within all the drivers here, to basically get a position in front in the championship.
Yeah, we've been seeing them, trade positions back and forth basically this entire championship, and today is going to be absolutely no different. Calvin's still doing a really good job keeping that BMW on top as we're on board with Blade Wolf at the moment in the Aston Martin Vantage, going through Degner 1 and then on down to the tighter radius Degner 2. This is this is usually one of the more dangerous curves sort of on the exit of that one, because you really want to, it's really tempting to mount that curve because you want the best run down to the hairpin that you can. And I honestly kind of like that line through the hairpin, especially when it's this wet, of just like kind of braking really late and then sort of trying to take more of a V shape around that corner rather than sort of the typical outside to apex to outside as you get to the exit, especially around when it's as wet as this, where you're going to be sacrificing a lot of mid corner speed anyway. It's kind of beneficial, and it's looking like that way in the times. That line has been really beneficial because it gives you a really good run on down the sort of like faux straightaway, where you're sort of flat to the floor all the way down to spoons. So drivers just finding different lines, finding the lines that work around here as Sadket is rounding out. Has a purple sector 2 at the moment, and this time is looking like it is going to be a significant improvement. We're up about 6.5 tenths right now, and it does turn out to be, so that is going to be P2 for Sadket at the moment, taking that away from Fabio.
Yeah, it's going to be the pretty big improvement for Sadket, and the next person to have the most improvement from the previous lap is Swingley, but that will likely get them into the 213s as they do with a 213.9. Still long ways to go in terms of catching up to the rest of the pack, but nice to see them still going strong in these kind of wet conditions. Definitely a bit challenging for drivers in VR because you'll just basically see just a lot of decoding artifacts in front of your face because of how much rain there is right now. The wipers are doing as hard as they could, wiping off the water off the windscreen, but with how heavy it is, and if you are spraying in front of them, they might as well just don't exist. You're just wiping off the first layer and immediately gonna be covered in water immediately after again as they push for another lap here.
Yeah, that's unfortunately kind of the thing, is that the wipers can only really display so much. That was I have no idea how Jesper was able to keep control of the car there. That is surely going to be the end of their lap and the end of their qualifying session, as we've just gotten the call for the pros and golds to enter the racetrack from race control. So anybody who's out on a lap right now, which looks like it's a couple of folks, but nobody on really significant improvements. Fabio is actually looking quite good, is looking about 3 tenths up right now. So Fabio will be finishing their lap. It may be, at this point, a contention for the pole. It would have to be over a 3 tenths improvement at this point in order to, because that was a interesting drift there as they were sort of trying to set up for Spoon. So Fabio pushing that car as hard as they can right now, and lost quite a bit of time with that slide. So it looks like it may not be an improvement.
Yeah, and also the curves. When you're in the wets, the curves really just pull you in to the outside of the track limit. So you gotta really be careful. And I feel like for this race, all the drifts that you see here are really involuntary, I would say. The track really just says like, nope, you're not getting any grip, especially when you're really fast down these corners. You're basically sliding at 100 plus Ks, 150 plus Ks, and in the sim world, we don't feel like it's anything, but in real life, you'll be. Oh, that's Fabio.
That's Fabio all the way around.
Yeah, I was gonna say you'll be scaring yourself and basically wetting your pants from how scary it is, but. Us being in the comfort of our homes, pushing it to the absolute limits, really shows you how much you can push. And it's going to be the pro drivers out for the last 10 minutes of qualifying. It's going to be interesting to see how these drivers get their run in qualifying.
There's something about just like watching those like really slow spins that's really funny to me when you're in the wet, especially. It's just, you're just sort of like planing over the surface of the water. So Damon in this race looking to secure their lead on the overall standings, and has done a pretty good job of it over the past couple of rounds here as they cross the line to start their first flying lap here. And again, kind of looking for that access road on the outside. It's right there, braking a little bit before it. can't carry as much speed as you can in the dry, but definitely, you know, Damon using as much of the track limits as they can, and that is absolutely the name of the game when the mid-corner speed is so much lower than normal. Actually really attacking those curbs in a way that I wasn't expecting on this flying lap here. Getting through the S's pretty tidily at the moment. That McLaren looking fairly hooked up, and I'm sure the longer wheelbase of the car probably does a lot for the stability as they are now heading up the hill towards the run down to Degner 1 and Degner 2. Looking about in between these two marker boards here, running over that curb again. It almost looks like a dry line at this point, as the way that Damon is attacking those curbs. So just you seeing just the little adjustments of the wheel here and there to make sure that the car stays planted. Damon looks to be really hooked up around here, and is really kind of pushing that McLaren to its limits at this point. And yeah, looking a lot tidier around the hairpin at the moment as well. This is looking like it's going to be quite a quick time. Not getting too close to that grass out there on the outside, so Damon playing it a little bit safe there. But now on the run towards Spoon, so you want to kind of cut in as much as you can for that first apex there, and then this second one is really where you want to get it right, because you get to carry so much speed down this long straight on the run down to 130R, and that looked fairly tidy as well, getting on the curb a little bit, but honestly it didn't look like it affected their speed too much. So the curb's definitely looking a little bit more safe at this point. A little bit of a dab on the brakes for 130R. Oh, that was a little bit nervous. So definitely lost at least a little bit of time there, but thankfully did not lose the car. And compared to that, the Casio triangle here, the chicane at the end of the lap, should be pretty tidy. And indeed it is, as Damon gets on the power down towards the start-finish straight. And that looked like it was going to be a really tidy lap, aside from that moment at 130R, and indeed it is. It's a 2:11.2. Not too far off of Callan, but still pretty good. And Lily setting a great lap as well, 11.4.
Yeah, and Larson sets it to just a few hundredths behind them as well, for 2:11.49 compared to the 2:11.42. I was going to say, if you look at the edge of the windscreen from the onboard lap by Damon, you'll see how treacherous the conditions are. Without the wiper, you basically don't see anything on track with how pulled up the water is. So it's all about how insane the weather is. And if I'm looking at the forecast, it's still increasing in rain the next 10 to 30 minutes. So it's not gonna be well for the drivers for this track. Hopefully it dries up a little bit, just a little bit for race day, which is after this session. So we'll see how that goes, but the drivers here making the best as they could in this increasingly hard conditions. So nice to see that they're still pushing it. As you can see here, the McLaren pushing a little bit out wide, might be in the way of Larson in a bit, so McLaren might need to get out of the way soon. Oh, as Larson goes out wide, is that a validated lap time? No, that is not. So it's going to be the McLarens that invalidated, so hopefully they'll get out of the way. But all the drivers pushing it as hard as they could, and Larson's the only one with a very big improvement at 6/10 ahead of their previous lap time. They might not like the spray in front of them, but it does give them a little bit of tow, which I don't know if they want in this kind of low downforce condition, very wet track conditions. You don't really get much benefit from reducing downforce, but it's going to be a pretty hard push for them for their improved lap time in a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I don't really know why the game accepts those track limits, because that was very far outside the white lines. Larson also, I mean, is taking a really liberal approach to all of these curves sort of around the track. So maybe the track being a little bit safer, at least at this point. And through 130R, you do not want a car in front of you when you're going through this one. And I have to imagine that probably cost them a little bit of time, but this is still going to be a pretty significant improvement. Damon not on a great lap at the moment. I have to imagine that after this lap, Aiden's probably going to back out of this one because of that car in front. It looked a little bit unstable around the final corner there. It can catch you out if you're not careful. You're kind of going downhill. The grip is pretty low. That's our first 10 of the session, so a 10.8. And Nico Lopez, actually, that's a really fantastic lap to put it in front of Damon's best. It's an 11.2. And Simone, of course, showing everyone how it's done with that 209.8. Absolutely fantastic, over a second from everybody else, and Vossi also putting it up there as well. So like we were saying, you know, the grid has a chance of getting shaken up today. Yeah,
the Porsche is really showing that they are really good in the wets, as we usually expect. I think the older generation 991, 911 might be even better because of its engine placement. It means that the rear rotates really well for you, and in these kind of wet conditions, you really want the rear to rotate in a safe way so that you can actually get some sort of rotation on. And with how the engine's placed, most of the cars mid-engine might get some rotation. The front engine cars, they don't get spin out, but they'll get severe understeer, and it's the rear engine Porsches that really benefit from so much rotation on this track.
Yeah, a little bit of a flip of the dynamic from what we've seen from a lot of the other tracks around that we've gone to this season, where the front engine stuff of the Lexuses and the Mustangs and the AMRs have looked really strong, especially with sort of the straight line speed that they're usually able to carry. But here it's the dynamic is flipped a little bit, where you have the mids and the rears are able to do it a lot more, and it definitely we'll see more than a little bit of rear rotation, I'm sure, as we continue through this race weekend. But yeah, we'll have to see what it looks like when we switch over to the race session. The thing that it's kind of hard to tell maybe from the way that we usually do race weekends when we're running in dry conditions, where it's mostly the same, is that all of the different sessions actually take place on different in-game calendar days. So we do go, Friday practice, Saturday qualifying, and then when we switch over to the race session, it will become Sunday. There is a chance that the weather could be slightly different, as that looks like another fairly good lap there from Inigo Lopez, just keeping it barely in front of Damon, who is kind of looking to struggle after that first really strong lap.
Yeah, it's usually drivers start to get a bit tired, because you gotta remember, in the wet conditions, you're concentrating way more. You're basically you're concentrating on putting on minute details in the inputs, and when you're really stressed about that, you don't really get much endurance from driving to the absolute limit. So you sometimes you just pull back a little bit, as Mohammed Afif coming in the Bentley at P8. So pretty nice to see them here. Actually, before we even say anything, we have two drivers new coming in this week that we haven't mentioned. Simone's getting in the 991, and as well as Mohammed Afid coming in the Bentley as well. Two GOAT drivers that we've seen previously, but this time around coming in for this race just to have fun in the whites, I would assume.
Yeah, it's a hell of a round to come in on, for sure, especially when you're if you are just a little bit rusty from having this out. So I'm actually quite surprised at how this qualifying has gone, at least so far. It doesn't look like Damon is going to be on a good lap at all, so it looks like the best that they're going to be able to do in this qualifying is going to be 5th, which they're going to definitely have their work cut out for them if they want to secure a good number of points to be able to hold on to that. Of course, the sort of the critical thing is that their primary title challenger of Newt is right behind them on the grid. So they were at least able to stay in front of their direct rival, but who knows what happens on the run down to turn 1. That could change very quickly if Newt's able to get out in front. And yeah, we have a lot of unusual names out in front. We have Simone, of course, leading the charge at the moment. It doesn't look like that time is going to get beaten anytime soon. We have Vossi doing a fantastic job getting that Porsche 992 up to the first row of the grid, and then Aiden, of course, who has always put in pretty strong qualifying performances throughout most of the rounds of this championship, is also lining up there on the second row alongside Inigo Lopez. And yep, so we're seeing our drivers crossing the line, taking the checkered flag, and that looks like it's going to be the starting orders. So definitely a really fantastic opportunity for a lot of drivers sort of lower down on the overall table to get some good points today.
Yeah, we see just then Vossi coming in for a pit entry practice. In the wets, you don't really get the chance to brake as late as you could, so it's really important for drivers to practice their pit entry. We did have some incidents in previous rounds in Suzuka where some drivers have Austin parked their ways onto the pit entry. That will basically immediately close the pit entry, and you definitely do not want to do that in the most critical time. Everyone wants to come in for the pits, and some drivers don't really have the margins to have any sort of to go for another lap, and that's really critical. Some drivers might just be stuck there waiting for drivers to reset themselves, and you definitely do not want to be the one causing a big traffic jam for the pit entry.
Yeah, absolutely not. A couple of silvers mixed in with our pros at this point, as Philip Beckevold and Victor Fries and Parker Olsen down in P11 are going to have to fight through some silvers on their way towards making progress in this one. But a good showing from Simone and a good showing from Mohamed Afif as well, getting that Bentley into P9 up into the top 10. So yeah, this is going to be a really, really interesting start. The times are still fairly close. I mean, they're not close to Simone, but they're close to each other aside from that. So honestly, yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of grid spread, but we'll have to see when sort of the race gets underway. I'm sure probably a couple of people will be looking to make some things happen down to turn 1 as we see what this circuit could have looked like if it was a nice, warm and sunny day. Unfortunately, that is not the case today.
Yeah, but we don't get to see the very wonderful Ferris wheel light up at night as well, but it's going to be interesting to fight. I think we'll see maybe Damon might try to make a move on some drivers just to put themselves a bit forward compared to Newt and Armstrong, Lily Armstrong, but I didn't even notice that Newt is currently in P5 in front of Damon, so definitely Damon will want to fight that position back just to be in front of the championship, and then everything else extra on top is a bonus. But given we know Damon's going to push it as much as they could. But turn 1, I feel like it's not really a good place, especially in the wets, to make a move. But then again, it's now or never given how wet the conditions are. It's either you move a position or you're going to stay in the train for basically the entire hour. It's all about strategy here in the wets. And drivers need to remember as well, in the pit stop for ACC at least, if you do not select a tire right before your pit stop, the game does not automatically swap you into a wet tire. So you're going to have a lot of problems because you're required to do a mandatory tire change in the pit stop. So if you don't do that, you're going to have to come in again for a new set of tires.
Yeah, it's definitely, you don't want to be taking the slicks around here, especially with this weather. There are some situations where, you know, if it was just a really lightly saturated track, or if the track was drying and we were seeing that dry lines start to form, we might see some kind of a swapping over point where the dries start to get faster, and that would have created some really interesting pit strategies. But it looks like it's mostly just going to be wet and wild today. So they're going to be wanting to stay on those treaded wet weather tires to make sure that they're going to be able to keep it on the track as well as they can. And yeah, as you were saying there, with Newt in front of Damon being the lead McLaren, I think that's going to be really interesting. And our gold AM and overall pole sitters are all in Porsches, which I have to imagine is a testament to the way that that car has been performing around here.
Yeah, and we'll get onto the grid walk in a bit, but as we get ready, drivers will be ready for a grid walk. We'll take a look at the drivers right now. Simone in the new S-Cargo car, well, on the older Porsche, but nice to see a new driver being in P1. Vossi is the new P2 driver here, so it's going to be nice to see how they behave in this entire race. Eden Larson is the front engine car, first ever Lexus on the front engine car in the wets, currently in P3. Inigo Lopez in the Ferrari, nice to see them this time around, not in the commentary booth, but in the track in the Ferrari. Newt beside them, the teammate in the McLaren P5, and Damon, our overall champ in P6 in the McLaren as well. Lily's in the Porsche in P7 fighting against the other two in P7, and Chris, the Gator, our AMG driver, in P8. Behind them, will P9 Mohamed Afid in the Bentley, our only Bentley on the grid for P9, and Calvin Mooney in the BMW for P10. P11 is Parker Olsen in the McLaren, and behind them Sad Cat in P12 in Offers Lamborghini on the grid. Kvyat De Vries in the S-Cargo car in P13, and P14 is going to be Fabio Sol in the Lexus. Behind them, though, Philip Beckevold in P15 for Cabal Sim Sports, and behind them P16 is Sierra Thomas in the Lexus. P17 Blade Wolf Kagekiyo in the Aston Martin for RRP, and P18 Oras Volpez in the Lamborghini. So nice. Hopefully they'll get a good run this time around. P19 is going to be Jasper Swingley for Garage 42 in the Porsche, and P20 is going to be JPEG Fox in another Porsche behind them. P21 Manuel Benavides in our only Nissan on the grid, before we have Koda Wolf in P22 in the Aston Martin, and last on the grid is P23 Wolf in Foxville for Blue Shark E-Racing And it's going to be the entire grid, 23 drivers on the grid this time around. We're finally able to finish the grid walk before the rolling start, and the rolling start did happen. Still not as we didn't have to see a car rolling before the grid lock though, so it's going to be the drivers start to warm up their tires and make sure that they are clear with the conditions currently on track before they have their start in a bit.
I think it's really interesting that Vossi is actually, because Simone is not scoring points today, this is technically a Vossi pull for today. I know it's not like on the track, but yeah, definitely the first point scoring driver on the track is maybe the correct way to word that. And definitely, where did all the Nissans go? It's we were seeing a lot of them, towards the beginning, and I know that not everyone loves to drive in the wet, so I'm sure that a couple of drivers were kind of planning on taking their drop rounds today, so that's why we see a little bit of a shorter grid at least today, and a fantastic job getting through them all before they started rolling. But yeah, I'm actually kind of still delighted with the size of this grid at the moment. We've had rain events in the past where not a lot of people end up showing up, so it's nice to see that our drivers are sort of willing to brave the conditions around here, and for some of them it's kind of a necessity because they definitely really need the points today, and this can be a good opportunity if you're able to keep it on the track and your rivals aren't. It can be a really big swing in the leaderboard, so we'll have to see how it shakes out at the end, and sort of what the implications for that are going into our final round at the Hungaroring in a couple weeks' time.
Yeah, and a fun note here, while we're doing the formation lap, the overall gold and M pole sitters in this grid are all Porsches. Gonna show you how strong the Porsche here is in the wet weather. It really shows that most drivers that are in the Porsches, they are very capable in the Porsches, are definitely the car of choice here. Oh, it's almost run in the back, Damon here, but luckily for us, though, the formation lap does not have a has ghosting on, so collisions won't be a thing. But it's definitely scary for some of the drivers to see basically a bumper going into your front, someone's front bumper going to your rear.
Well, as long as you don't see it when you're actually going on down to turn 1, I think it's fine if it's just around here. But we'll have to see who's able to sort of keep it on. I really like Vossi's chances at being able to hold on to this P2 here. Honestly, if I were in Vossi's position, I honestly wouldn't even really be particularly interested in fighting Simone out there. Like, Simone is just probably going to be driving away at this point, based on the pace that we've seen. Could be different when we get into the race, especially because everybody's going to be, not testing the limits nearly as much as they were during qualifying, as we are starting to go 2x2 now as we're going in there. So, Simone's going to have the inside line. That's probably going to be enough to secure the P1 position going through the first lap. But it's definitely going to be up to Vossi to be able to sort of make sure that they're able to hold on to that P2 and be able to hold off Aiden Larson, who we've seen doing some of these off in the background there, going through 130R, able to get the grid back into formation as we are awaiting the green lights going through the Casio Triangle at the moment. But it's going to be a really interesting start here. I can't wait to see how the grid's going to shake out.
I foresee maybe chaos in the rear, but at the start though, the older car might have a small disadvantage if they don't do some brake boosting at the start of the grid though. But drivers, on your marks, as they slowly inch over for 45 red lights, and it's gonna be green soon. And we'll see in a bit who has the TC on, who has them not cranked as high as they could coming into the start, and it's going to be a very long wait before a green flag. And when will it green? It's green, and it's away we go. Some of the drivers are all pretty safe here, double foul, going into single foul soon maybe, but Simone is still leading the pack here coming into turn 1 as drivers start to run wide a little bit. Vossi on the curves, everyone's on the curves, but a very clean start by the grid starters from everyone else though. At the back seems to be really clear. Oh, it's a bit shaking for F5 coming down into Bentley though, but the grid all very clean here, driving for the start of the race.
So close between Vasi and Aiden at the start there. I think Vasi had a little bit of a traction advantage being on the outside there and having a little bit of an opportunity. As we see a lot of yellow on our timing boards at the moment, it looks like we have a couple of cars off. It looks to be the silvers and AMs and pros all kind of getting into each other here at the moment. That's Philip Beckervold down in last place now in P23 in that busted up Mustang. So we'll have to go back and check that replay to see what happened. But Lily not being able to make up any places on Damon, but Damon also not being able to make any places on Newt, while Newt was able to get in front of Inigo Lopez at the start of that start of lap 1. So Damon going to have to overtake Inigo here to get back in touch with their championship rival, and not the start that Damon wanted to this race.
Yeah, but the good question is, can you even see what's happening in front of you? Just now, while Lil was behind Damon, you could see the spray, and you can't even see where Newt was until they were basically bumper to bumper, and now he's trying to go side by side here, coming down into almost into Spoon, who will be in the front. I don't think there's any position change right now though, but Inigo Lopez holding strong in P8 in front, right behind Afif. I think there was a position change, but Afif right now still going strong in front in P7. Definitely the Bentley showing its ability to stay in front, but as the drivers keep driving, the sprays basically blind you until the very last moment. That's why it's so scary here in the race.
Yeah, no code 50 intervention for that situation at the start of the race, and it looks like there might have been another one as maybe Sierra and Callan getting together as Callan's dropped down a couple of places at this point. That's going to be somebody's in the barrier. We'll have to go back and see who exactly that is, but Chris right now making it could be Auras, I believe. Chris right now making a run on down to Inigo, who has dropped down quite a bit from their grid position at this point. Simone setting the fastest lap. That's not remotely surprising. But everybody sort of at the front. Actually, Vasi has not lost touch at all. Still within less than a second of Simone here at the start of this one. But most of our drivers being able to hold on to position here. But Damon was thankfully able to clear the Ferrari of Inigo Lopez, and is now it's now going to be a straight fight between them and Newt for P4 in this one, which may turn into positions later on.
Yeah, it's gonna. I think things are slowly settling down, but you could see here that the Porsches are pushing, are definitely going off into the distance. But we might see a replay soon. We are gonna see a replay soon to see what has happened in the incidents. As we see here, Philip going a little bit scary. But what has happened here? Getting tapped? No, that's not a tap. Oh, that is the escargot car. Philip has actually hit them both. Oh, the Mustang just slowly getting slid into the barrier. Unfortunate by those two cars, and it's definitely unfortunate for Philip in the Mustang that have been into that accident. Not too major though. So hopefully they can just continue on with their race. I foresee not much of an issue, just maybe a small bumper issue here. ACC is pretty lenient in terms of its damage model, so at most we maybe see a little bit of understeer, but I don't think it's going to be very much of a major problem for them.
Yeah, lenient in the damage model, not very lenient in the collision model. That was one of the lowest speed collisions I've ever seen, and ended up with both of them in the wall, unfortunately, as Sadcat seems to have actually benefited from all of this chaos going on in the silver grid right now, as RS hanging it out around the outside of Spoon at the moment, is still outside, and is trying to get around Philip Benavides right now, or Manuel Benavides in the Nissan, and is able to get it done. We may see a lot of moves like that. It looks like the outside lines are kind of the favored ones right now, as you're just sort of able to carry a little bit more speed than everybody else, as we're heading into 130R here. A little bit of dirty air almost, it looked like, for Coda there, as we see a lot of fastest laps here piling in from the top of the grid. But yeah, Fabio able to get in front of Sadket, it looks like. So Fabio taking the lead, and Callan down into P3 in the Silver Championship. They're still all fairly close to each other, but as it stands right now, this would be a huge boost to Fabio's title chances.
Yeah, definitely very, very close grid right now, and it's kind of the characteristics of a very wet track. Everyone's just on the edge of the limit, so it's all about drivers' ability to basically know the car that they have driving with them, to basically push the ever so limits of the car. And Philip run a bit out wide there. You can't really do that in the wets, unfortunately, taking out wide here in the race. So gotta think about the strategy, be a little bit careful here and there, and Manuel, though, definitely holding up Philip here really well here for positions. I won't say it's for blue flags because it is not for blue flags. It is for positions, and it's definitely proper defending. Not sure if there's any action that we missed, but definitely the Nissan is holding strong in these kind of conditions here.
Yeah, it looks like the pros and the silvers have mostly gotten sorted out, as that is going to be a
no.
It was almost going to be a dive there from Philip trying to just get back into this race, and unfortunately was not able to keep the car on the track there, so they're going to have to reset and try again as the race continues to unravel for them, unfortunately. But it looks like a lot of our front runners here have mostly settled down. They're going into single file, and I think at this point you kind of want to be thinking about your strategy a little bit more. The track is going to be a lot colder than it has been in other times. Sierra is taking a little bit of a look around the outside of Spoon there. We've seen that line work really well for some other drivers, but I think you just have to be a little bit more alongside before you can really shake that one out into anything remotely realistic, as that's Fabio getting side by side with Zadket. Zadket was able to get a run. They're on down to 130R side by side. You do not want to do this in the wet, and Zadket is going to back out of that and concede the position and live to fight for another corner. A little bit wide there on the exit, and that's going to drop them down a little bit into the clutches of Kalmari, but was able to just stay ahead here as this fight continues to, they continue to go extremely hard at each other down here in the silver grid. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, it's definitely very close racing. It's so wet out here that you don't even see a dry line happening. But there is good news for the drivers. I could see here on the forecast, rain is about to reduce slightly, not a lot, in half an hour. So they might get a little bit of sigh of relief with a little bit of reduced wetness on the track. But I don't think it's gonna relieve itself anytime soon, though. But Swingley just gone a little bit scary here. And Philip, will that move finally stick? It will stick finally for that corner. But will they run too wide here? But no, they'll continue on. Fighting for positions, and the next driver they're gonna target will be Kody P20.
Yeah, Philip for this race really just kind of needs to keep making progress through these lower class drivers and make sure that they can get into some clear air to maybe set some lap times. You mentioned that the rain was going to let up a little bit towards the sort of 30-minute mark, which is our pit window, as Philip is going side by side through the last bit of the S's here, and that is a fantastic move around the outside. Again, that outside line working really, really well for our drivers. Maybe Koda's able to come back a little bit here through Degner 1, but that corner is just too high speed, and Philip having the inside is going to be able to have the advantage there and be able to hold on to the place. So that's a lot of the work done there. Still 8 seconds to the next car, so still has a lot of work to do, but is making up progress slowly but surely. I can't imagine that this is ever going to turn into a dry tire race. It's even more. It's raining even harder than it was in qualifying right now, and even if it lets up a little bit, it's still going to be pretty much exactly what we were seeing. So Jesper here just tucking in behind Blade Wolf, and they're just trying to work together a little bit to push on up towards Cowlin here, who's continuing to run in that third place. Not been a fantastic race for them so far.
Yeah. Oh, that's Parker Olsen in the. I think spinning. Oh, at 130, that is not a good place to rejoin. But I think better of it goes. Don't go too wide there, though. You might get disqualified for running backwards on the racetrack. So hopefully able to rejoin now. Oh, spins a little bit, but that's a bumper. Basically gone on the start. I think that's gonna be Parker just spinning a little bit on 130. Or we'll take a look at the replay to see what has happened. I suspect I know what has happened here. It's usually a common place to get yourself murdered at 130R, either through someone else or by yourself, and that is gonna be and yep, that is gone in the 130R. Curbstones there. It's definitely very slippy there, and if you're not careful, that's gonna happen. So unfortunately for them that has happened, but it's basically the fangs of wet weather racing biting you when you least expect it to be. And RS fighting hard to get back onto the fight with silver champs, the silver class again. Right now fighting with Kvyat sideways on the Aston Martin, definitely pushing the absolute limits of the track. But is it really a good thing to do it in the wet still? That is the question here.
I mean, if that last Parker incident was any indication, it doesn't seem to be the play right now, at least around some particular corners. And that was really, really squirrely for the Lamborghini Huracan. There was able to just keep the car on the track, and Yeah, Parker popping the frunk on that McLaren. This looks like it's going to be Phillip around the inside there for that position. And yeah, it does look like Parker has lost a lot of pace in that McLaren, probably most of the aerodynamic bits on the front, and the McLaren being a really, even more than a lot of other cars around here, a very aerodynamically sensitive car that is absolutely going to be impacting their performance basically throughout the rest of this race. And it honestly, damage that visible it might be hard to be able to fix that in the pit stop even. So they might just be carrying that for the rest of the 49 minutes.
I mean, if it were any other sim, I think the bumper is going to be gone, but it's going to be at least a minute, maybe or two of repairs, I would say, on top of the regular pit stop. So it'll be interesting to see how they will strategize, maybe take the repair, maybe not. We'll see as the pit window opens. I guess there's two options. Either they pit now and not suffer the whole thing for this, as Lee Armstrong goes wide here. I think a little bit of wiggle coming down to turn 1 as they fight for it, and there's going to be a position gone for Lily, and it's going to be if they have to fight their position back with Afif. But given that Lily currently in P7, it really shows that they are really struggling here, and their positions are going to slowly drop off as Damon still fights pretty close in P5 with Newt in front of them. The 1.3 second is the gap, but that's not going to be enough for them to fight for an overtake. But right now, Aura is fighting for an overtake with Kvyat. Will that stick though on the outside? No, I think Kvyat is going to have a move on the inside, going to keep the position on the inside. A lot of action happening this race currently. We're just only 12 minutes past the green light, so it's definitely a lot of action to be had this entire race.
Yeah, I've been surprised. I think it's just a matter of whoever is sort of feeling themselves in the races. That looks like it's another overtake, and that's Manuel Benavides in the wall, sort of around the S's, and that's probably extremely easy to do around here as we go back to the replay here. Just going through turn 1. Nice and easy there. Didn't look too look pretty tidy through turn 1 and turn 2 here, and it's probably going to be just getting on the throttle a little bit too much in that Nissan GTR. That Godzilla proving to be a little bit too much power for Manuel to handle there, so that's going to be a bit of a setback there. But Mohammed actually really enjoying themselves, it looks like, in the wet right now. Is up 2 places from their grid spot, and is continuing to duke it out with Lily, who has been one of our most consistent championship performers in this race. And Lily in turn is looking at the back of Damon, who again has really not been able to make a whole lot of progress up towards Newt. So Newt doing really everything that they wanted to do in this race. This has been a really good start for them. They've now kind of broken off quite a bit from Aiden. It looks like sort of the 1, 2s and 3s have a lot more pace than the ones down here. So this might be about as much as Newt can hope for in this race, barring any big mistakes out in front. But Simone, I mean, you can just see there's barely any other cars sort of in the camera picture as we are following Simone around here. As we look to be getting a race control message. It looks like it's going to be a full course yellow for something that must have happened somewhere on the grid. We may have to see what happened, but yeah, we're under code 50 at the moment.
Yeah, but it's gonna get going in a bit as drivers are gonna get their green flags continue on the race. Maybe a spun car in a very dangerous area. That's why we have the code 50s here for. It's not really to pause the race and restart. It's more of to make sure that drivers are able to get through any sort of incident safely, so we don't get a big pile up as we sometimes have when there is drivers in very precarious areas. But it does mean that drivers get to basically take a breather, calm down a little bit, regain their thoughts and strategize themselves as they could. And the restart kind of sometimes benefits certain cars when they do, and it's definitely interesting to see how certain drivers definitely react to the green flag. And right now the fight has closed in with the McLarens, two McLarens in the front and the Porsche behind them. Afif though going a little bit off everyone though. I think that's unfortunate for Afif, but the fight still is very fresh here, coming down 50 minutes past green flag.
Yeah, definitely the full course yellow not really benefiting Mohammed all that much, and broke away a little bit from Lily, which means that Lily is now free to push up and try to overtake Damon at this point. They have to try to play it really smartly at this point, I think, because there's a world in which you try to go for this move on on Damon and end up fighting really hard and let Newt break away, which of course Newt would be delighted with. But at this point, I think P4 is probably really realistic for Lily, as we're going to get a replay here of what ended up causing that code 50, and this looks like the Escargot AMR probably just taking a little bit too much curve, and by a little bit too much curve, I mean way too much curve on the entrance of 130R there. And yeah, that's exactly what will cause that code 50 right there, especially in such a high-speed part of the racetrack. You do not want to have a car parked perpendicularly across the racetrack there and having cars running at full speed through there. That's just a recipe for a race-ending incident there. So a good call from the stewards to get that code 50 in, and we're back to green flag.
Yeah, Sackhead though trying to have a go at Inigo Lopez. Starting out pretty strong, but Inigo definitely has dropped over the course of the race, and right now defending pretty hard for P10 at this crate. But Sackhead does show that the Hurricane is better set up in the rain here. Maybe they have their own setup that might be beneficial for them. Maybe adding a lot of downforce and maybe different suspension geometry to make sure that you get as much rotation as you can get here in the wets. But I could see a little bit of counter shift from the Hurricane, and definitely has lost a lot of pace with Inigo Lopez in front of them, and that's going to be them having to push and get back the pace that they just lost there for the position again.
Yeah, the Lamborghini's struggling quite a bit in this one, as this may be the best chance that we've seen from Lily in a while, just almost pushing Damon along the straight here on the run towards Spoon. Depends on how much that they're able to get from the slipstream. This may be an opportunity here, as they're going to try to duck to the inside. Damon putting it to the middle of the racetrack to see how, and that's a big slide there, so they're just going to have to recover that, and did a fantastic job recovering it. Honestly, didn't even lose too much time from Damon there. But yeah, Damon just putting the car in the middle of the racetrack. That's pretty much exactly what you have to do there. But that's the first time that we've seen Damon have to take a really defensive shape in this fight, and it's impacted both of their pace a lot, as Newt has been able to break away a little bit after that scuffle.
Yeah, but I'm feeling that that off-track might give Lily a little bit of an off-track warning. Remember that drivers can only get 4 track cut warnings here in a race session, and if they 3 warnings, and the 4th one gets you a drive-through. So I got a feeling we'll be seeing a few drivers getting cuts here and there from the wet conditions. So definitely want to keep them sparingly. So definitely want to make sure that you don't do as much off tracks as you can, because it's gonna really hurt you once you're fighting for position and get yourself a drive-through. That will really suck for the drivers here.
Yeah, the Bentley getting back in the fight too, by the way, from that squirrely moment on the curbs of Spoon there. Very easy to do, but it has brought Mohammed back into this fight. So these 4 still running really close to each other. It looks to be sort of our marquee battle at the moment, as Lily is just trying to push up a little bit. Lost a little bit of time through that. Lost about a half a second to Damon from that last lap, and yeah, that was an invalidated lap, as you were talking about. So definitely she's going to have to be a little bit more careful now through the rest of this race. We're on down to the hairpin now at this point. Lily basically right back on the bumper at this point. I feel like it's going to have to be, that's really close to the rear bumper of the McLaren 4. Damon there just trying to make sure that Newt still knows that they're there. And Newt, for their credit, not remotely cracking under the pressure. We've seen Newt be a really good defensive driver in the past in other rounds of this series, and again, just ice water in their veins at this point.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like Newt knows that there's not much to worry about. I think the most that Newt will want to do is just basically be in the way of Damon. What happens when that happens? When you do that, is they basically push the competitors into Damon. And that's going to be fun for them, because that means that Damon will be strongly defending instead of fighting for a position with Newt, and that's going to be beneficial for them. That means that they'll just run away, and is that Damon running a bit wide? Will they be able to cover it into the grass? Oh, that's a bit scary though.
Oh,
taking a little bit of it that much, but that's a swerve in from Damon. Going a bit deep on there, but Lily, because of the swerve, has to cut the track. That's going to be a warning for them, but no time position has gained. But that means that the launch might be a bit slow. It means that Alfie might have a run, but currently the fight is scrapping along. They have to be very careful. That's definitely a cut warning for Lily, so we definitely have to make sure that you don't get too much of those, or else you're going to get yourself a drive-through.
Yeah, exactly. And I honestly think that there was not really too much more that Lily could have done at that point. Like, that was a really, really scary rejoin from Damon there, especially running over, just like kind of clipping the sort of the beginning of the grass there. There's a lot of runoff on 130R that is still kind of asphalt, so it's easier to get back on track. But if you don't get back on track before that asphalt ends, you're just onto the grass at that point. And you know, entering onto the track at that sort of angle, while also, you know, getting a wheel onto the grass, that's just a recipe for, you know, getting really unstable. So there was a world in which Damon wasn't able to hang on to that car and might have collected Lily in sort of a sort of like an incident there. So Lily, I think, doing a good job to just try to make as much avoiding action as they can, and they're able to, in fact, keep their position as well. So despite all of the craziness happening between these two, that has given Newt even more of a buffer. They're able to sort of still maintain their running positions.
Yeah, I think I would foresee a world where Code 50 would definitely deploy for all of them, given that I got a feeling all three of them might get collected. Alfif might think better of it, break right before it happens, but oh, that's gonna be annoying if that happens, though, because there's gonna be two title contenders basically out of this race if they do get collected. So Damon definitely wants to relearn what has happened then. Maybe not go too wide here. That's not as wide enough for them to go out wide. So definitely has improved on the line there, but that means that Lily's still stuck behind Damon for this position, and Afif right close behind them for the continuation of this fight. Afif though definitely wants to get in on the action, but currently it's just on the backseat waiting for something to happen. It's either Afif gonna have to push Lily into Damon to have the fight happen, or Afif's gonna say, you know what, I'm done with this, I'm gonna make a move, and then we'll figure this out as the race goes.
Yeah, neither of these two can really forget about Muhammad right behind them, because if I was in this train, this is the position that I would want to be in, especially seeing the way that these two in front have been going at each other basically the last 10-15 minutes. Definitely there's a chance at an incident here that Muhammad could really benefit from, and suddenly you're staring at the back of P4. So, and that's going to be Sierra pointing the wrong way down the start-finish straight, is going to try to execute a 3-point turn there to get it turned back around. We'll see what that might have been. It looks like probably just got a little bit too unstable on the exit of the Casio Triangle here. And yeah, really running over those curbs, trying to get the power down as much as you can. And yeah, it's the grass. It's always the grass. It will always be the grass. It's really slippery, especially with all the water on it, just like soaking through the soil there. You just have absolutely no grip, and that was just a half a tire basically on that grass, and it was enough to turn him around.
Well, before the grass, you have the paint as well, and if we've seen racing on any other series, any other title, you'll know that the paint in the wet is absolutely deadly. So it definitely has contributed to drivers spinning out there, but that is gonna not happen. That was never going to happen for Lily and Damon. So that's a spin, and it's gonna be an easy runaway from Adrian though. But the two of them are gonna continue the fight though. Nice to see Lily giving the position back for the fight. No love lost between the two of them, but that's gonna be easy positions for Afif, and then Damon and Lily just both getting pushed back into the lower positions.
Yeah, everything's coming up off of in this round, absolutely. up to P5 from P9, and yeah, I think it's mostly just, you know, being able to hang behind and just waiting basically for that exact move to happen. And yeah, I agree, probably a little bit too ambitious there from Lily, but you know, I feel like at this point she's probably under a lot of pressure to just try to make something happen, and that's both of them now in the pits probably to get this damage repaired. So it looks like Lily maybe had a little bit of a better entry. I think that's our first two pits of the race. So again, we're going to let you know that we've had some other pit stops. Okay, but I don't know if it was a mandatory or not. But yeah, we'll see kind of going through the rest of this. But it's going to be 60 seconds lost while you're in the pit lane. You're stationary for 30 of those seconds, changing those tires. It's not a particularly long pit lane here at Suzuka, but definitely with those walls being so close on the pit entry, it can definitely catch you out if you're not careful trying to kind of get in there and find your braking point, especially in the wet. So hopefully we won't see any big blockages in the pit lane today, and if we do, they'll get cleared up fairly quickly, as it looks like Inigo currently fighting for P7 with Fabio at this point, who has broken away from Sadket for the lead of this race, and Callan not able to really make any progress either. So this is looking more and more like it's going to be a really, really good day for Fabio.
Yeah, definitely a good day for Fabio in P1, but it's kind of interesting to see why. Not sure why Callan's having issues at P10. Oh, that is Chris a little bit into the grass as I assume the car understeering into the hairpin, but nice save from the Mercedes though. But it's going to be a side-by-side fight for P6 here by Fabio and Chris, but Chris though keeping it alive in the front. But oh, that's going to be so close for Fabio to go into the grass, but luckily enough, lifted just enough to keep it on the track, and it's going to be maybe more oh, never mind, Chris going a little bit wide here. I was going to say maybe a more better time to make an overtake later, but it seems like Chris is struggling in these kind of conditions. Maybe the Mercedes a little bit wear on the wet tires, which usually doesn't happen too much, but it definitely might be the case here, and struggling for positions. But Fabio very close to Chris for P6. When will the overtake happen? Definitely not at 130R, I'll tell you that. But Chris cracking on the pressure, though, mounting the curves pretty hard. Will that be a very bad accident? Fabio, though, right at the back of the Mercedes. Who will make an overtake? No one's going to make an overtake. That's going to be another car going out wide, maybe got spooked out by the train in front of them, but that's going to be Chris coming in for the pits, and Fabio continuing on. Chris going to go for a pit stop for a tire change. Hopefully they remember the tire change is going to be Fabio in clear air for the next lap.
It's got to be a sigh of relief for Fabio, absolutely, especially with, like, just so awkward being sandwiched between two gold drivers there. And I was about to say before Chris ended up making the decision to come in, is that if I was Fabio, that would kind of be all the argument that I would need to come into the pits at this point and just get away from these two, because you know, both of them were looking really, really unstable at this point. We're seeing the tires start to come away a little bit as the tread wears away, and they're kind of starting to turn into more slick tires, and that's, you know, even with the heat put into them, that's going to make them, you know, really, really dangerous in this phase of the race. So it might come down to sort of who gets this exactly right and who's able to maintain their pace kind of throughout the rest of this little bit before they come in, as that's going to be a bit of a bump there from Coda, kind of slowing down a little bit on a straight. That's not really, I think Coda was probably trying to get into the pit lane. That's my leading theory at the moment, but it just ended up being a little bit of a bump there between them and Damon managing to get in front, thankfully, but that was able to give Lily quite a bit of a buffer here. So definitely Lily getting the better of Damon through this pit cycle. Yeah,
definitely the Porsche definitely kind of running away now, given that the McLaren's basically behind them. I feel like Coda might have just lifted a little bit, not for the pit entry, but more for making sure you don't run wide on the not running wide on the last corner. As you can see, when you push it pretty wide, that might be an issue. We might take a look at some issues that we had early on. That is going to be Vossi in front of them. Not sure what happened here. Vossi on the Porsche. We'll take a look and see what has happened though. I feel like this is Vossi, right? Oh, into the grass. Oh, what has happened here? Car 15.
Could be hardware. I honestly just kind of going straight on the corner there. I don't see Vossi anymore on my timing tower, so they might have had to retire. That's going to be really, really unfortunate for them, especially because they were in such a strong position for the rest of this race. That has got to sting.
Oh, that's unfortunate. But the drivers here currently, oh, P20 and Jasper, they're going to have a move on Benavides here for position, maybe? Yes, there is for P19. We're going to have to see though. Jasper has pitted, Benavides has not. So we only have the few in the back that have not pitted, and a lot of the drivers in the front that have not pitted. The pit window kind of closes in 10 minutes time, so a lot of time for drivers to start getting their pit stops in, and we'll see how these drivers behave. And basically, as Benavides goes wide swinging, got a little bit spooked out there though, but nice to see them recover just well and continue on with this. But it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers get the strategies in before the pit window closes for this race.
Yeah, I mean, the way that we've seen the drivers that are still on those old tires just getting really, really squirrely out there, I'm amazed that any of them are actually still holding it out on that tire. That, I mean, we have this sort of zoomed out view of being able to see everybody on track at once and being able to see the times coming in, but the times for the drivers that have pitted are a lot faster than the ones who haven't. It's at least a second in it. So I think that definitely for the ones who haven't pitted yet, it's going to be time to come in probably right about now. But again, maybe they want to try to build a tire gap towards the end of the race. If the tires are going to be this awful feeling for basically everybody who pitted really early. They're getting the pace right now, but the pace might fall off towards the end of the race, and that might create an opportunity for the drivers who pitted later. The sort of the classic dynamic that we have in racing of sort of needing to choose when you want to have those faster times. And I think for most of the folks that have pitted already, they want the faster times right now. They want to be able to build a gap to their competition before that tire wear kicks in and they start to really struggle. And seeing how much they're struggling on the worn out wets right now, I have to imagine that a lot of drivers, Fabio included, are going to just want to get off of them because it's going to be hurting their race time.
Yeah, the new tires will definitely benefit as well, given that the rain is slowly getting lighter and lighter, but not as light as you would like it to be. It's still on medium rain. According to the forecast, it's just a little bit less intense of a medium rain here. But as you can see here, even on Spoon, you'll see starting to develop a dry line here on the track, and that's going to be beneficial. It means that drivers will definitely know where to be on track because the dry line, unfortunately, unlike any other sims here, the dry line is still the fastest line on here, so definitely drivers will have to stick to it. But it also means that the rain isn't as intense. That kind of indicates to some drivers that maybe I could push it a little bit more, but don't get too greedy though, pushing it too wide, and you're just going to end up in the wall like you usually do in the wets. So drivers still need to put caution into it, but it just means that the rain is drying up, and if the pace around you is going slowly picking up, you definitely want to match the pace as closely as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Fabio getting out in the pits well in front of Chris there, so that will be a huge boon to the rest of their race, basically, so that they don't have to run so close, and we'll have a lot of clear air here to be able to push their advantage. Most of their competitors in Silver, the sort of that 6, 7, 8, 9 group of Sadket and Callan and Blade Wolf and Sierra still have not taken their pit stops, so Fabio's going to be faster than all of them basically through this phase of the race. So again, it looks like a really, really smart strategy call from Fabio at this point, even though those tires are pretty cold and pretty dicey right now. Those will settle in, and they'll be able to set some really good times, and we're seeing Newt come in now, so this is going to be a pretty big test of where Newt is going to end up in relation to Damon. I have to imagine with that weirdness on the start-finish straight that they're going to end up well ahead of both of them. But there's a decent chance that they might have been able to, that Lily and Damon, I should say, might have been able to claw back quite a bit of time on these new tires.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like Koda's in for a second time. Not sure for a for drive-through penalties, or like I said before, if you forgot to select your wet tire in the race, you're gonna have to come in for a second tire change. I feel like if Koda did not pick that out the first time, they're gonna have to do it the second time, and if they don't, they have issues coming out of the pit lane because they'll mean that they'll have to take a third pit stop. We'll have to observe and see if that happens or not. But right now, though, Adrian Newt coming in for the pit lane, as you can see here. Newt, Satcat, and Blade Wolf, 3 of them in the pit lane. We'll see as they come in, exit the pit lane, will they have done that pit stop they have, and it's going to be Newt out. And Lily, though, pretty far on the start-finish straight, but that's a very big gap between the 3 title contenders here on the straight. So it's going to be a very comfortable gap for Newt in front of them at P7.
Yeah, I mean, this race continues to just look better and better and better for Newt, especially in the context of the championship. If Lily's able to hold Damon behind, this would actually be a really, really fantastic haul of points for Newt, especially when this pit cycle ends. I think the only car that would really be ahead of them in class is Aiden, really, in up there in P2. So this could be a chance for a really, really strong haul of points, and just making that fight a little bit closer going into the Hungaroring round. So we'll have to see when we get there if you know that's able to shake out into an actual chance at the series win, which I'm sure Newt would be absolutely delighted with. But you know, aside from the overall win, there's also the gold fight to think about as well, especially in the context of Aiden being in front of Newt right now. So, you know, those two have been, you know, they traded positions last round. If it finishes this way, they'll be trading positions again, and it'll be Aiden back in front. And it'll be sort of no holds barred for the last bit as the Nissan gets out of the way of these two here as we start to get into the blue flag phase of this race with 25 minutes to go.
Yeah, definitely you can see here the blue flags definitely don't show up as early as you'll expect in the dries. Parkos getting caught up in the way of Benavides in front of them. But position, the fight is for positions, but definitely Parkos, being the pro driver they are, definitely has the better pace to overtake them with ease, and that has happened for them. But as you were saying, what was I saying again? Never mind. We'll go back into the pit lane. Kalumani's in the pits for P5 and Sierra Thomas also in the pit lane. I guess that's only the front four that have not pitted. They will definitely have to pit within the next 4 minutes, well, less than 4 minutes, and definitely we'll see when that happens, and then the grid should stabilize for close to basically until the very end of the race.
Yep, Callan about to get moving again. This actually might end up with Fabio being in front. It's going to be really close, it looks like, on the exit, as Callan is getting out of the pit lane right now. Maybe just a little bit too long on that pit speed limiter, so yeah, it's definitely going to be Fabio in front. It looked a little bit closer from my perspective than it was looking like, and Fabio currently topping out our speed trap as well by quite a margin, 261. There's only a couple of other drivers that have even gotten close to that on 260. So Fabio probably running a little bit of a lower downforce setup today, and it looks to be really working out for them as they are very, very comfortable in that P8 position in the silver lead.
Yeah, comfortable, but definitely very sketchy. I got a feeling if you were to share Fabio's setup to most people, I got a feeling they might curse at the wins on how sketchy it is, but it's definitely working for Fabio here in these kind of conditions. So Chris lost 2 positions since the start of the race, is struggling a little bit in the AMG. Usually expected. The AMG is usually a little bit understeery on most tracks, and with how understeery the car is, coupled with how torquey the car is, definitely not the best combination as Chris in the grass for the longest time before the hairpin, extending the track limits as much as possible. Don't think that's beneficial though. We don't really get grass cooling in this game.
Right, we don't. We have another raft of pit stops here. It's going to be Aiden, Mohammed, and Inigo in the pits now, basically as they stood on the racetrack. So we'll see where Newt ends up in relation to them. Aiden's stationary right now is going to be stationary for about another 20 seconds. So we'll see if Newt was able to get even a little bit closer to this sort of the leader here. Going through the Casio triangle right now, it might have worked out perfectly for Newt here. Going sort of through the final corner here, Aiden still has to be stationary for a few more seconds. This should be them getting dropped down right about... Still in it. Might have to repair some damage. That's going to be Newt in the lead of the gold class now. So just what I was saying. I mean, it's going to be that's a delightful result now for Newt at this point, as they're well ahead of Aiden, who is still stationary.
Yeah, not sure what's happened. I got a feeling that they
Probably picked up some damage.
There definitely is damage by the looks of it. Currently the pit stop's about 1:04. Maybe adjustments somewhere here and there, but definitely a very long pit stop, longer than we expected. Not sure what has happened there, but it's going to be unfortunate for them. That has cost them a lot of positions here. But for the rest of them though, right now only, I was going to say Simone being the last one in the pits, and they are. They're going to take their pit stop right before pit window closes, and it's going to be the last driver in the pits, and it's going to be Newt in P2 of all places.
Yeah, really flirting with the limits of the pit window here, as the pit entry is basically going to close before they're able to get out. So definitely that's going to be the rest of our drivers in. We have all green on our timing tower now, which means that everybody has served their stops. And so it's basically going to be a straight fight to the end now at this point. So as it stands right now, it looks like our closest fight on track is going to be between Inigo and Sadket right now, not for class position, as we're going to go back to a quick replay here, potentially Inigo dropping down as a result of some kind of incident. Between these two, it looks like Sadket might have had to back off a little bit from Chris in front, and that was gave Inigo a chance to get back in front, and then Inigo off again into the dirt and giving that place right back. So both of them kind of making some errors here and letting Chris run away a little bit, but Inigo's going to want to get back around really quickly to be able to fight for that P7 position.
Yeah, definitely would like to. They definitely want to do that. I think right before Inigo had a overtake on Sadcat, we see that they were a little bit wide off the last corner for those very complex first sector left and right handers, and I think that has caused Chris to make an overtake, and that has caused Inigo to have an overtake. And of course, Inigo running wide means that Sadcat gets at least one position back, so definitely has to fight very hard to get back the position they lost to Chris in front of them. We'll see if that happens or not, but Inigo though got a little bit too excited with the overtake and basically just ran wide. Definitely don't want to do that, as Kalmari hit their teammate right behind them. So it's either they'll do a little bit of a team call to have Inigo in front of them. We won't know between the teams, but definitely we'll see how things pan out within the next 18 minutes or so.
Yeah, I mean, we got some really, really big winners so far from all of the incidents that we've had in this race, and drivers going off and going wide kind of as we expected. Mohammed up there in a podium position after starting from 9th. That's probably one of the biggest winners from this one. Fabio, of course, up 8 positions from where they started up there in P6 now, and ahead of quite a few pros, so doing a fantastic job to get up there. Sadket as well, up 4 positions from where they started in 12th, up there in 8th. And Blade Wolf and Swingley as well. So a lot of these sort of silver grid, they've kind of all moved up together as a group as sort of incidents have unfolded in front of them. So they would all be really delighted with the performances that they're able to put in at this point. And yeah, Aiden is back out, ended up being stationary for 1:25 there on that pit stop. Where we heard from Denak in the broadcast that it may have been accidentally opting to swap brake pads instead of tires, which you don't want to do because that takes a lot of time, and you don't need to swap brake pads in an hour-long race. It's unnecessary. So it's that would be really, really tough luck for them if it was the pit menu that did them in on this one.
Yeah, it's definitely a very hard menu to navigate while you're driving. It's a very small thing to navigate around. Luckily for us, we don't have mouse control. Sadcat's going on the outside. Oh, that's not going to happen. That's going to be a touch by Sadcat. That's very ambitious, but luckily for them, they're not too big of an incident. They're going to slowly rejoin the track. I think it's going to be a position back for Inigo. Oh, very nice slow rejoin by the driver. Unfortunately, a lot of positions lost, but safe rejoin. I would say applause to them for keeping it safe for the rest of the grid.
Yeah, it looked like the room just ran out for them on the outside there. I think Sadket was kind of fancying their chances getting into the inside of the Casio triangle on the exit of 130R there, and the room just completely ran out for them. They ended up on the grass. It's really, really easy to do. There's a little bit of a wide moment there for Chris, and I think we're gonna go back and take a look at that incident. So yeah, so they're heading through 130R right now. It looks like. Yeah. So these folks in front, I think it was really just Sadket, just really ambitious there, trying to get on the inside and taking the MotoGP line, I believe, through that triangle there. So yeah, ended up losing quite a few positions from that.
Yeah, but Inigo right now still on the hunt for positions, as Chris is not under fire by Inigo Lopez behind them though. Definitely making a few ambitious moves like Kalmari, going a little bit slide here onto Denak too. So it's definitely everyone's fighting for their lives in these very tricky conditions. But we still have 15 minutes remaining into this race, so drivers really have to think about this. It's a good thing for Sadcat though. With these two fighting in front of them, that just means easier positions to get back into the fight for everyone else in these conditions. So they definitely would like to have these kind of fights happening in front of them, because that just means everyone gets close to in. But Lily on the fight right now with Afif in front of them, fighting for the last podium spot. I don't think Afif is going to let go of that position very easily, though. It's all about making sure they don't crack under pressure in these kind of conditions, and I think that's going to happen. Lily's a bit more aggressive on these kind of conditions. We'll just have to see who might make a wrong move that might cause an incident, or might just have any sort of mistakes and have an opportunity for an overtake in a few laps time.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of time left. Still 15 minutes, and being this close, I mean, you have to imagine that Liz is going to have at least a couple of chances here. Sadcat is also closing up really, really quickly on the back of Callan and P9, so there might be a chance at a move there towards sort of the late stages of this race. We're going to go back and take a look at Chris here in the AMG. So yeah, so this is this incident again. I think Chris was just really, really slow through there, and actually, you know, it might not have been as ambitious perhaps as I thought from Sadcat. It may have just been a slight touch, as both of them were sort of trying to get to the same part of the racetrack at the same time. So yeah, Sadcat having to sort of merge back in there, and honestly it would have been a fantastic move there, taking advantage of the fact that Chris was going so slowly through 130R at that point.
Yeah, I think it was just unfortunate that a small tap there. It felt like it was definitely a move that I would have done, but the gap was definitely not there. A little bit too scary, I would say, if I was the one doing it. But definitely a very ambitious move. I won't say it's overly ambitious. It's a nice move, but I think it's just unfortunate. It's turn on events that have caused them to basically had that sort of had to do the rejoin, as well as just getting pushed off into the barrier.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate for Sadcat's race, who has I mean, really been doing a really great job so far, and it is still within reach of P2 in the silver champ at this point. But it's going to be probably quite a tall order at this point, as Chris continues to hold on to this P7 from Inigo Lopez, who is pushing that Ferrari really, really hard as Simone puts in another fastest lap. It's a 25-second gap to the leader out there. Simone just completely in another league, another planet, another universe in this stage of the race. No, literally have not seen them since lap 1, pretty much, and I'm sure they're having a great Sunday drive out there. It's a little bit of a rainier one, but you know, at this point, it's really just you know, wet practice. You can take as much of it as you can get.
Yeah, definitely take as much as you can get. And Newt's also cruising along in front of them. Afif's 2.5 seconds behind them, and they know from the gaps that they're gonna have to fight really soon, so that's gonna be slowed down lap times for them. And Inigo's definitely being held up by Chris. I think that's going to be a good run for them. Chris definitely overshot the exit of the last 2 corners, though. But I think the Mercedes power is going to push the Mercedes in front of them and just not have the Ferrari have an overtake. It's always the case with the Ferraris. They're not as strong on the power end, that has caused them to basically not have been a very good car to make overtaking moves, because you just have the very big powered Mercedes in front of them being in the way most of the time.
Yeah, it's looking really close between them right now, and it's also looking really close between Lily and Mohammed here, who are heading through the Degners at the moment. Lily attacking those curves quite a bit. As whoa, that's actually a car quite close in front of them. I think that's a lapped car at this point, though. So Mohammed's still having to defend this position a little bit, taking a little bit of a defensive line through the hairpin at the moment, and that's going to compromise their exit quite a bit. It's going to be Lily quite close here at this point, and might be shaken for a move down into Spoon if they're able to sort of get on the power and get through here. The Bentley pretty strong in a straight line, but the Porsche, as we've seen, has been really strong all around the racetrack at this point. And that's a little bit of a look, but I think Mohammed just did enough to close the door there, and Lily's going to have to try again.
Yeah, I think with the two fighting, Newt's in 2 seconds in front of them, be like, come on, get closer. Just have Lily get closer, Lily, just so that Afif could start defending hard, and that's when the gap will start to increase for Newt in front of them, because with the fact that there's no fighting between them, I think Afif's pace is definitely faster than Newt by a small margin, lap after lap, and with 10 minutes remaining into this race, you definitely don't want the margins to close in as much as you could. So it's either they have to fight and basically have Newt push Afif back into Lily, or the fight is going to happen naturally, and that's when the gap's going to start to form between P2 and P3, and that's going to be a relief for Newt if that happens.
Yeah, this group here is still really, really close together at this point, as Inigo's been able to make a significant amount of progress against Chris at this point, who looks to be struggling. And Sadcat on the inside of the triangle, they're going side by side through it. I think that's just going to be a little bit too much for you to fit 2 cars through there, but Callan really, really having to defend this P2 in class now, so this fight is absolutely heating up between these two, and Sadcat is going to be looking for another move. Meanwhile, we have Aiden Larson, who is trying to make more progress up towards the front, trying to get around these silver drivers, and it looks like RS is just going to let them go at that point. Maybe a little bit of a shove there from Aiden, not a literal shove, but just putting your car in a position where RS is going to have to concede it there, and RS was not very interested in it.
Yeah, being psychologically shoved is what I will say. But Sadcat though definitely has, getting mind punted. But I was gonna say Sadcat though definitely has got a lot of time gain from the previous lap. I think they just have a sector in this entire track that is definitely miles ahead, faster than most of the drivers in front of them, and they have to make the move stick. As Chris, they made an overtake. Inigo made an overtake on Chris, and it's gonna be Inigo being in front in P7. Chris definitely struggling in the Mercedes, and it's definitely showing. That's not gonna be flying for the in-game stewards. That's gonna be a track car warning, I will assume, by the track stewards. But that's gonna be a pretty struggling car in front of them, as the Mercedes getting get by the far in front of them. I think due to pace issues, definitely losing a little bit of pressure if they keep cutting the track here and there. You gotta remember that if you cross into the grassy areas of the track in ACC, you do get some burping off the tire. That's how you lose your pressures over time in a race, and you definitely don't want to do that, as the limits just get pushed more and more. You definitely don't want to get too much attention by the in-game stewards, or else you might get yourself a drive-through penalty. Sadcat though, right at the back of Kalmari right now. That might be an overtake soon, but will that be an overtake again? Maybe it's a bit too far for them to judge. They might have a better run in 130R if Kallan's a bit safer at 130R. We'll see here in a bit. Nope, that's gonna run wide. It's gonna be doing what Damon did. That might save them. It's gonna just be a normal warning, I would assume. That's not a proper warning by the in-game, because that's usually a no time gain for there, and it's going to be a regular run. They might just need to work hard in terms of getting that position back to get an overtake for P2.
Yeah, Sadcat so far has been much faster in Sector 1 and 2 than Callan at this point, which is why they're able to get so close through that particular part of the racetrack in Sector 3. But unfortunately, there's not really a whole lot of opportunities to actually overtake in that part of the racetrack. So the pace is kind of coming at an inopportune spot for Sadcat if they're still trying to make this move, and they've dropped off a little bit now at this point. I have to imagine that the Chris and Inigo fight being so close to Callan is affecting them quite significantly, as this fight has now closed up between Mohammed and Lily and Adrian. They are all now running quite close to each other, and this may end up being a shuffling of positions for those final podium spots. Lily, of course, chasing another podium finish in this fight. Adrian just trying to hang on to this position as long as they can. And we've seen them be really, really good in defensive situations before, and I'm sure we'll continue to see it now. But at this point, Newt just kind of has to continue to run their race. You can see with the footwork down there in the footwell being just nice and gentle on the throttle. You just want to pretend that there's an eggshell underneath it that you don't want to crack, and getting around that back marker quite well. So that looks like all of them are able to get around that back marker before 130R. So this fight is not going to be affected by that.
Yeah, Adrian's definitely being very, very safe with the curves. You can see here, not even taking any curves at 130R, but overshooting the last two corners. That's going to be Afif basically right at the back of Newt. I was going to say the only time you might see a shuffle is that someone might go bowling here, but I don't think that's necessary given how close Afif is now to Newt. I think Newt's just being a bit too conservative. Maybe, I would assume, taking all the track car warnings as they could have been provided for this race, and basically have to go super, super safe to not get themselves a drive-through. Who knows? But that has basically mean that with 6 minutes remaining, there might be a shuffling for P2. Adrian and Newt has to really fight to defend this position, or else they might get P2 snatched away from the two cars behind them.
Yeah, a little bit of a late look into turn 1 for Mohammed there on that lap, but Newt not blinking a bit, is still just like keeping to the racing line, not defending if you don't have to defend. It's really, really hard to develop that sense as a driver for what the momentum of the car behind you looks like, and that's a little bit squirrely there from Mohammed.
Oh,
and
no.
that's even more squirrely from Newt, and that's going to be the first mistake that we've really seen from them in this race. And unfortunately, it's a really costly one as they drop down 2 places now. Mohammed inheriting P2 and Lily inheriting that P3 podium position, and is now sort of on the run here. Going to try to take this opportunity to look for that P2 is going to be around the outside of the hairpin, just not able to get the traction though. Is able to get a pretty good run though out of the hairpin, so we're going to be continuing this fight on down towards Spoon Curve, and Newt just dropping away as well, is now up to about 0.8 seconds away from these two. So this is Lily's chance, I think, at this point, sometime in the next half a lap or so. They're going to have to make this move if they want to be able to make it cleanly without having to worry about Newt behind.
Yeah, I feel like Newt, the chances of Newt getting that position back is basically slim to none. I think Newt's basically a little bit tired from basically pushing the entire race. Definitely fatigue setting in, or it might be just that they basically have no margins of error left to basically break out any sort of push laps they could. They have to basically be on survival mode, and that means that even being on P4 right now is still better than being in P9 with a drive-through. So they might be thinking of better of it and being, you know what, let's pull this back at least in front of Damon and get some good points in this, and maybe just not have any sort of incidents in front of them, as Afif right now on the defensive line against Lily right now. So right now all of them basically fighting for their lives for the top 2 positions here for this race. Oh,
yeah,
and
you see kind of
Lily's
a little bit off, but was
Whew.
able to save it and get the car back under control. Thankfully, that Bentley, again, the fairly long wheelbase, able to keep the stability over that particularly tough section of the racetrack there. But yeah, it's looking hairier and hairier out there for Mohammed as they're trying to hold on to this P2. Lily been really strong. That might have been one of the best chances that they would have had, because now Newt is well back into this fight at this point. Not as close as Lily is to Mohammed for sure, but Lily is definitely going to have to keep an eye on the rear view pretty much for the rest of this race, I would imagine. It's looking pretty tidy through Degner 2 at the moment. Not really a whole lot of positions, a whole lot of overtaking opportunities left on this racetrack at this point, as we have 3 minutes left to go. That's going to be about maybe another lap or so after this one, maybe 2 if Simone is able to get around, because again, it's the number of laps that Simone is able to do and not what the rest of the grid is able to do. So we might get an extra lap here where we might not have otherwise.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where they end up as the time takes off, though. Lily will definitely want another lap, but we'll see when the time comes. But Lily here definitely faster in the hairpin, as the Porsche does in the braking zone, so definitely we'll come back to that in a bit. But Jasper and Aiden Larson, though, Aiden has got into P12 in this position, so still slowly climbing back onto the grid as the rest are continuing fighting on. We'll look into the rest as well. Philip right now at being hounded by Sierra. The Lexus seems to be more stable than the Mustang here in these conditions, but definitely being caught out a little bit by the spray and also by the dirty air, so that to be careful not to run out wide, because if you do, you're gonna end up as what Newt did by basically losing a couple of positions and sideways the Sierra go into the corners of Degner 1 and Degner 2. So very close fight between all these drivers before the end of the race. So it's gonna be interesting to see what if we get even a extra lap here as 2 minutes remaining into this race. Definitely a very hard push. Sierra though on the inside of the McLaren, of the Mustang. Not sure if that's going to be an overtake or not. Side by side coming out into the right-hander. We'll see just then by the edge of the corner here. But that's going to be Philip right in front of Sierra currently. So still staying ahead. Definitely needs to defend really hard just in case anything happens though with the last few minutes remaining in this race.
Did I read that right? Was that a 2:07.7 from Simone? Lily
Yes.
is able to just getting really close now, and they're now running into these back markers, which are also fighting really hard. That's going to give an opportunity for Lily to get on the outside of Degner 1. There's almost certainly not going to be a chance to get a move done here, so she's just going to tuck back in behind, maybe trying for a switch back into Degner 2. A little bit of a tap there on the rear of Mohammed, so this fight absolutely heating up. There's a Porsche rejoining the track, and they're able to both get around, thankfully without too much issue. It looks like Newt is stuck behind a little bit though, so that's going to make the chances dissolve a little bit more, as Lily is now fighting so hard for this position. They're both getting around Parker Olsen here, and the both of them are just continuing to duke it out. That again, what feels like it might have been it feels like an opportunity when you're able to get side by side, but I don't think that was ever going to turn into a position for Lily.
No, definitely not. And there's going to be another lap for all the drivers. So Lily's going to be happy that you have another lap to give it a go. But it's going to be white flag for Simone right now in P1. Comfortably in the lead, 40 seconds ahead of Afif right now. But Afif's definitely going to be cursing under their breath. Why can't you just wait for me in these coming times? So definitely going to be another lap here. Afif's definitely getting really tired of this, but you have to push. You gotta make sure you're going through. But both X-Cargo cars, teammate cars, I got a feeling they might be trying to push each other to cross the line together. We'll see in a bit. They have the time to basically chillax behind each other, so why not do it together as a photo finish for the team? But right now, what matters though is the fight between all of them for P2 right now. It's right now Parker Olsen's between Mute and Damon at the back. I'm not sure where's Damon at. Damon's in the pits. Damon doesn't have enough fuel.
Did Damon run out of fuel? Oh my god,
no.
That's gotta be absolutely miserable for Damon at this point. That is actually...
Oh no.
Man, with where Newt is finished, that might be the lead of the championship for Newt. After this, we may get a standings update before this race is over. But honestly, with how much has happened, I probably wouldn't expect it until we get the points sorted out in a couple days' time. At this point, that's Chris off the track once again. You're able to get in front and stay in front at this point. So it's looking like it's going to pretty much be in the bag for Inigo at this point, as we are sort of heading around 130R for the final time for Simone in this race. Lily has backed off a little bit, is actually fairly close at this point. It might have been a mistake from Mohammed, has not backed off at all, it turns out. And they're really, really close now, coming through the hairpin at this point. And again, on the run down to Spoon, it's been really kind of the only opportunity that Lily has had for almost this entire race has been on down to Spoon, because that's kind of the only place that they've been able to flex their speed. That is a sliding Porsche all the way around the rear of the car, trying to overtake the front, and that's going to lose them quite a bit of time and probably the position here. But that's going to be Simone over the line, handily winning this one, and the 991 looking absolutely dominant here as we are continuing to take a look at this fight here. It's going to be maybe one last chance here in the triangle. Lily using those track limits as a resource and just trying to get as much of a run as they could. It's wide for Mohammed through the first part of the triangle. They touched. And it's Mohammed spinning a little bit, but just able to get in front, and I think that is going to be how they're going to finish. They may be able to get side by side before the end of the line here, but no, that is going to be the last of the chances for Lily. That is Mohammed in P2, Lily in P3. My heart when they were going through that first part of the chicane. Good Lord, what a finish.
Oh, this has been a very, very fun race as drivers start to come in for their positions. Inigo Lopez though was going for P7, now P6 because of Damon's issues with fuel. Currently everyone in the back slowly getting position. Chris from P8 to P7, Callum in P8, Sackhead in P9, and Blade Wolf in the top 10. They're gonna celebrate amazingly with their teammate Damon coming in P11. Unfortunate for Damon, but this is why we put margins when we do our fuel calculations here, and that's gonna be Larson in P12. Cars just coming in, crossing the line, and they'll be sighing a breath of relief as they're finally done with all the wet racing that we have here this round.
It turned out to be a really good one, huh? And pretty much everybody crossed the line, which again, kind of surprised at. We had a couple of retirements in this one, but it was pretty good, honestly, all things considered. JPEG crossing the line in P18. That's going to be the AM win for JPEG Fox. Wolfen tucking in alongside in P2. So starting from the back of the AM grid, I think Wolfen will be very, very happy with that result. Coda finishing P3, and Manuel Benavides rounding out our finishers here in P22. But yeah, it's been a real spectacle today at Suzuka, and again, we thought that we were going to have a chance to see a lot of shakeups in our usual order, and I think we saw quite a few today.
Yeah, definitely big shakeups here. Simone a wild card, considered wild card, being in here in P1, and our fifth, also our second wild card. Two of our wild cards are in P1 and P2, basically breaking the entire whole thing of our overall standing. So definitely interesting to see that that's had happened. Lily though are our strongest winner in the title fight in P3 behind Newt. Behind them will be Newt and Fabio, our silver driver in P5. So nice to see all the top 5 drivers here finishing. Nice to see actually most of the grid finishing. So it's very nice that everyone's just finally relaxing here. We're gonna see a lot of words happening lightly in the Stewards chat, lightly in our chat, but it's been really nice this round.
Yeah, it was really fun. Wet races continue to deliver. I think for Simufur, it's a wonder that we don't do them more often. But I think for us, one wet race every season is that feels about right to me. It's just enough to get in a little bit of a wild card there, a little bit of a mix up, and yeah, it was really fun today. So. Yeah, in terms of championship implications, Fabio finishing really strongly in front. Cullen, though, finishing P2, so they'll probably be able to hold on to their lead, at least for now, but that gap is absolutely going to come down. Sadcat, I think, considering everything that happened to them in this race, I think they'll be really satisfied with a podium finish there. And Blade Wolf, yeah, with a really great finish in silver as well. And yeah, so just a couple of pit stop errors like we were talking about has really managed to bring together the overall and the gold standings. So we'll see what it looks like. I mean, it'll be really interesting going into our final round. Newt might be able to might just manage to walk away with this one.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see as in a bit as the results are getting processed, but definitely a very interesting race this time around. Wet weather, as you said, always shows the best racing there ever is, but there's always no in between. It's either you get a wreck fest at the start, which we almost did, but without an issue, or you get amazing races that we had tonight, as you can see here, with some drivers basically struggling entirely this whole race, but some drivers just so locked in and just pushing away. Simone, a wild card here in the older Porsche as well, just running away without issue this entire race. So it's definitely shown that you really just learning multiple disciplines in sim racing definitely helps you in terms of making sure that you're really in tune with the car, and it's really nice to see drivers just showing off what they can do on grid.
Yeah, especially when you have the chance to, for sure. I think honestly the most of the grid was pretty well behaved in terms of behaving themselves in the wet conditions. It's really like you said, there's always the chance for a really big pile up into turn 1 and things like that, but thankfully we didn't get anything like that, and we honestly didn't really get too many. I think mostly the mistakes just kind of came from just some really honest mistakes and drivers going wide and rejoining the track in weird places, which that can always shake things up for sure. But I think that just on the whole, I'm pretty proud of the way that our drivers carried themselves today despite the conditions. So yeah, it was a really great round, and definitely looking forward to next round at the Hungaroring, where it will thankfully be nice and sunny.
Yeah, before then, though, the points are in. We might be able to see what the points are, and you can see here Damon still in front. But that means Adrian's tied with points. What the hell? Three of the top 3 are fighting for positions. This is insane.
This is like F1 2021, but like even worse because we have a 3-way tie for the overall standings between Damon, Adrian, and Lily. It is going to be absolutely insane on this final round. That is going to be the story heading in. And yeah, we do see a lot of Mohammed up there now in P21 entering the scoreboard with a really strong standing there. And Newt extending their lead actually up in the gold standings. Aiden's still behind by 6 points, so it'll be tough to beat, I think, for Aiden at this point. But Newt really showing a really strong position here going into our last round. Callan's still hanging on by 7 points, so yeah, that gap has gone down just a little bit between Callan and Fabio. So it'll be fairly difficult for Fabio, I imagine, to get this done. But definitely they won't have to worry at all about Sadkit down in P3. But Sadkit will have to worry about the two behind, as they're both tied on points and very close. And we have another tie again in AM, as Wolfen and JPEG now are back even on points, just after we thought that we had that all sorted out. So they're going to be fighting with each other pretty strongly, I think, for the win of that category going into our next race. But that overall leaderboard, you are going to want to be here for in 2 weeks' time for the next round. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say we will have our next race not next week, but 2 weeks' time. We're gonna have a week's break for, is that Anthrocon? I'm assuming. Yes, that's Anthrocon, right?
That's the one.
Yeah, so we'll be taking a break for Anthrocon next week, and we'll see you back on the 4th. Actually, no, that's 14th for me, 13th for the rest of the world that's tuning in. That's gonna be Sunday in 2 weeks' time for Hungaroring, the final race of the season. And with how close the standing is, it's definitely going to with basically ties on basically multiple standings. It will show you have to watch, you have to be here. And I hope all the drivers that are fighting for points will be here to fight for their positions, because any position, you basically will gain or lose positions regardless if you're here or not.
Yeah, I mean, another hard track to overtake around, so definitely qualifying is going to be really key for them. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So for now, good night, everyone. It's been a really nice one, and we thank you for joining us here, and hope that we'll see you next time.
Bye.